On this week's episode of the I-501CU, the podcast for nonprofit board members, let me begin by saying I hope everybody had a wonderful 4th of July last week and enjoyed, hopefully, a long vacation, or at least a long break, and had a few days off and are ready to tackle the new fiscal year for many of you. This is the new fiscal year, July 1st, for many nonprofits. And so what I thought I'd start off with today is I just speak for the next couple of minutes is how you as the board can in maybe 2 short hours identify the strategic priorities for the next year. Hey, I want to jump in real quick. Somebody asked me the other day, what does the Corley Company do? Well, we do 3 things for nonprofits. 1, we facilitate meetings, yes, like board retreats where we discuss governance and strategy with all the members of the board. Number 2, advise CEOs and help them as they make decisions and implement actions to drive their mission. And then finally, we produce podcasts such as this one, but also for a number of nonprofits to help you get the word out, get your message out. So if you're interested in any of these services, please feel free to reach out to Michael at thecorleycompany.com. Now back to the podcast. Yes, you can do this at your next board meeting or extended board meeting. Like I said, it'll probably take about 2 hours if done properly, and it'll give your executive director and the board some direction over the next fiscal year. So what do I mean? So it's really about it looks like I've written down a 6-step process. First 15 minutes is you start with the mission. Go around the room, ask people to discuss and define what does the mission mean to them? And then maybe more importantly, what is not the mission? See, we got to get the board aligned on the mission before we can embark on a strategic planning process or a strategic, let me say, prioritization process, because this is not a formal strategic plan in 2 hours. But have that conversation with the board, about 15 minutes. What is the mission? And you can even go around the room. What does the mission mean to you, Michael? What does the mission mean to you, Reed? And what is not the mission, because we always have to worry about mission creep. It happens to all organizations. Number 2, and maybe for the next 20 minutes, remember that in grad school or in undergrad, the SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. In about 20 minutes, you can go around the room and capture these notes, and starting off with the strengths. What are we really good at as a nonprofit organization? Where do we excel? What do we think we do very well? Number 2, the weaknesses. What could we do better? And what are the areas that we're not so good at doing? And be honest with yourself and go around the room and have that discussion. Number 3, what opportunities might be presenting themselves for us if we look into the future, if we look at the marketplace, if you will. That's a business term. If we look at the sector that we're in, what opportunities for us? And then number 4, that threat. What is threatening our business, our ability to serve our clients? It could be any number of things. So have that discussion for, I'd say, roughly 20 minutes, because now you're starting to paint the landscape as you move down the road to strategic prioritization. All right, the next 20 minutes. Next 20 minutes is the aspirations. What do we hope to achieve over the next 1 to 3 years? This is a little bit aspirational. This is fun. Tough to keep it to 20 minutes because everybody's going to have visions of grandeur. But we got to remember to put that into perspective and really a dose of reality when we're going through the aspirations, because we're only talking 1 to 3 years, and we might want to solve world peace, but the reality is it's not going to happen in 3 years. I mean, the stuff that we're tackling in the social sector are very, very difficult. All right, so that's really about an hour. That's 55 minutes. Take a 5-minute break. And then for the next 30 minutes or so, it's prioritize these aspirations against the SWOT analysis and the mission statement. So this is where you start to prioritize. You've got this. These are all the things we can do, right? We just spent the last 20 minutes talking about our aspirations. Now let's take that gut check I just mentioned and really apply it against what you discussed in the mission. Are your aspirations consistent with the mission? I mean, tightly fit within those. And what about applying them against the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? I mean, that is really a nice playing field. I'm drawing a box for those of you who are listening, and that's the playing field that you've got an opportunity to play in. You're not playing the whole field, part of the field, but that's the box around which you can begin to say, this is where we're going to focus on in the next 1 to 3 years. And then the next 15 minutes or so is roughly, let's pick the top 3. Got those aspirations. Remember, we've just done we've benchmarked it against the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, but still you've got to prioritize. You got to pick 3, really no more than 3, and it's going to be hard. You're not going to want to. Maybe you do 3 for the first year and 3 for over, from 1 to 3 years. It's something to give you direction and your executive director, your CEO and staff direction. But you've got to prioritize. Any number of opportunities are going to come up, but got to focus on 3. Always say no more than 3. And then once you pick those, over the last 15 minutes or so, probably 10 minutes because you want 5 to wrap things up, is really just take a step back and say, okay, here are our objectives over the next year. Here are the 3 we selected, or 1 to 3 years, whatever you choose to do. But here's where we're going to focus our efforts. We're going to prioritize. We're going to do a lot of other things just by nature of our work, but our top 3 priorities, Mr., Miss, CEO, Executive Director, are these. Now it's up to staff. This is where you end as a board. You've identified the strategic priorities, the direction in your discussion. A lot of good information there that staff will take when they emerge from this meeting, and the staff will build out the action plan, the objectives, the tasks, come back to you with metrics. That the board should not have to do that. Some boards do, some don't. I'm saying keep the board at the board level and let staff create the action plan and bring it back to the board to review and even approve. So there you go. Probably a 2-hour plus minus 2-hour strategic prioritization process that will help guide you, those of you who've just started your fiscal year 2024, 2025, in the areas you should prioritize over the next 12 months. So I wish everybody good luck with that and keeping focus. We got to stay focused. Otherwise, we will deplete and dilute what we do on a daily basis, and you will experience mission creep, and nobody benefits when we experience mission creep. So there you have it. Hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the week. This is Michael Corley, the I-501 CU, the podcast for nonprofit board members, and we will I-501 see you next week.